You know that moment when you're sitting with a group of people and everyone is talking at once, laughing, interrupting each other, sharing stories, and you're just there, listening. You're not bored, you're not distracted, you're not uncomfortable, you're present. But after a while, someone turns to you and says, "You're so quiet," like it's something unusual, like it needs an explanation. It looks like you have nothing to say, but inside, your mind is full. You're noticing the shift in someone's tone, the way another person keeps glancing at their phone, the way the mood changes without anyone saying it out loud. And you quietly wonder why being silent feels so natural to you, yet so noticeable to everyone else. For a long time, many silent people carry a quiet question in the back of their minds. Maybe you've thought you should talk more, react faster, laugh louder, show yourself more clearly. Even if no one says it directly, there's this unspoken idea that being quiet means something is missing. But silence is not emptiness. It's often a different way of processing the world. You're not broken, you're not behind. You just move through things in a quieter way. Here's what makes this interesting. People often assume that when someone is silent, they must be shy or unsure, but that's just an outside guess. On the inside, something very different is happening. You're observing. You're taking in small details others don't notice. You see how someone reacts to a joke. You feel when a conversation turns tense. You sense when someone's smile doesn't fully match how they feel. While others fill the room with words, you fill your mind with information. And here's the part most people miss. Silence can mean your mind is more active, not less. Some people think out loud. They understand themselves by speaking. Their ideas become clear as they talk. But others think quietly. Their thoughts form slowly. They prefer to understand something fully before putting it into words. So when you stay silent, it's not because you have nothing to add. It's because your mind is still shaping what you feel and what you think. This is where it gets interesting. People who are naturally quiet often have strong inner focus. Your brain is picking up signals all the time, the rhythm of the conversation, the emotions under the surface, the pauses that say more than the words. When you're taking in that much, speaking becomes intentional. You don't jump in just to be heard. You wait until something feels true. Now, let's go a little deeper. For some people, silence isn't only personality, it's also experience. Maybe there were times when speaking didn't feel easy. Maybe you were talked over. Maybe your words were brushed aside. Maybe staying quiet avoided conflict. So your brain built a pattern without you even realizing it. Watch first, speak later. Not as a rule, just as a habit that slowly became natural. Over time, that habit feels like part of who you are. You listen more, you observe more, you speak when it feels necessary, not when it feels expected. Sometimes that feels peaceful, but sometimes it feels confusing. Because silence can be comfort and protection at the same time. There's another layer people rarely talk about. Silent people often feel deeply. You notice mood shifts quickly. You sense tension before anyone names it. You remember small details that matter. But instead of reacting loudly, you process it inside. From the outside, that can look like distance. From the inside, it's depth. There's a big difference between being silent and being disconnected. A silent person can be fully present, fully engaged, fully aware. They just don't show it through constant talking. In busy spaces, conversations move fast, energy shifts quickly. For some, that feels exciting. For others, it feels overwhelming. So instead of adding more noise, you slow down, you listen, you take everything in. And this is where it can feel complicated. Sometimes your silence feels calm. You're okay with pauses. You don't feel pressure to fill every gap. But other times, that same silence feels heavy, like you're there but not fully seen, like people are forming opinions that don't match who you are. They may think you're uninterested when you're actually paying attention to everything. There's a reason this feels confusing. We live in a world where talking is often seen as confidence and silence is often seen as insecurity. The loudest voice gets noticed, the fastest answer gets praised. So when someone is quiet, people fill in the blanks with their own stories, but those stories rarely match the truth. The truth is, silent people often have rich inner worlds. You replay conversations later. You think about what was said. You think about what you meant to say. You reflect more than you react. And over time, that reflection builds self-awareness. You understand your feelings more clearly. You notice what drains you and what restores you. You don't need constant noise to feel connected to yourself. But being silent doesn't mean you never feel lonely. You can enjoy quiet and still want connection. You can be comfortable alone and still want to feel understood. The silence isn't the absence of need, it's just a different way of existing. Sometimes what hurts isn't being quiet, it's being misunderstood because of it. People may assume you're uninterested. They may assume you don't care. They may assume you're judging. When really, you're just listening, you're processing, you're present in a way that isn't loud. That gap between what people see and what you feel can create a quiet distance. Here's something else worth noticing. Silence protects energy. Talking constantly takes effort. Reacting to everything takes effort. Being socially on all the time takes effort. Not everyone is built for that pace. Some recharge around others. Others recharge in quiet. So your mind naturally chooses what keeps you steady. This doesn't mean you don't enjoy people. It just means you don't need constant conversation to feel connected. You might prefer one-on-one talks, calm settings, meaningful exchanges, spaces where you don't feel rushed to perform. And this is where silence becomes quietly powerful. When someone is comfortable being silent, it often means they can sit with their own thoughts. They don't panic in quiet moments. They don't rush to fill empty space. In a world that is always loud, that kind of inner calm is rare. Still, it can feel lonely sometimes, not because you lack people, but because others don't always see what's happening inside you. Your silence doesn't always show how much you care. It doesn't always show how deeply you feel, and that can make you feel unseen. But silence isn't weakness, it's a rhythm, slower, deeper. It doesn't rush, it doesn't force, it moves in its own time. And maybe that's why silent people understand others so well, because they spend more time listening than speaking, more time noticing than reacting. They don't just hear words, they notice the meaning behind them. They notice the emotions sitting quietly under conversations. If this felt familiar to you, you can subscribe and stay for more conversations like this. Share this with someone who might feel the same way. Not to change who you are, but to remind yourself that your quiet way of being still matters.